On the 23rd day of the month of September, in an early year of a decade not too long before our own, the human race suddenly encountered a deadly threat to its very existence. And this terrifying enemy surfaced, as such enemies often do, in the seemingly most innocent and unlikely of places.
I'm sure most of you are familiar with the movie Little Shop of Horrors. And you've seen that intro. For those of you who've been around for a while and been paying attention, though, you might remember, do you remember me showing you, talking about this movie, showing you a little bit of it back around September? Do you remember around the 22nd and the 23rd, I was talking about the Nexus event? I mentioned how that guy Tony said that a Nexus event was going to happen around the 23rd, the night of the sign in the heaven of the woman giving birth, clothed in the sun, all that. They're like the Revelation 12 sign. And you might remember me on the 23rd and 22nd saying that I felt like something was going to happen, something was going to change. And then I came back right after that and we talked about how the realities were going to change. Now, I'm going to read in the Word to you all about what I just said, all about the realities changing, and it's going to prove everything that he's been showing us, all the more. And check out this clip of that movie right here, and watch what happens at the eclipse, at the time of the, and if you remember this movie, you remember in the newspaper, the guy holds the newspaper up in front of the camera and it says unexpected eclipse, okay? And remember, I talked about like from 2017, from the first solar eclipse, the whole world almost has been talking about that one and the one coming up here in 2024. But nobody talked about the annular eclipse that happened in October of last year. No one, it can't, for me, just speaking for myself, I don't know, maybe everyone else did know about it and I just didn't. But for me, it came out of nowhere. I heard it in like 2 weeks before it was to happen, I heard about it. And I was totally unaware that there was going to be one. But watch what happens in this little clip. It's only like a minute long, not even, of what happens when the unexpected eclipse appears in the sky. And then we'll come back and talk about it. And I'm going to show you how the enemy, whoever, all these people that made these movies, that make movies, a lot of movies, they knew exactly what was going to happen on the 23rd of September in 2023. And they knew that it was a Nexus event. Whether they caused that, however that went down, that is what went down. And let me show you.
The wholesale flower district that day. And I passed by this place where this old Chinese man, he sometimes sells me weird and exotic cuttings. Because he knows, you see, that strange plants are my hobby. He didn't have anything unusual there that day. So I was just about to, walk on by. When suddenly, and without warning, there was this... It got very dark, and there was this strange humming sound, like something from another world. And when the light came back, this weird plant was just sitting there. Just, stuck in, among the zinnias. I could have sworn it hadn't been there before, but the old Chinese man sold it to me anyways. For $1.95.
Now, I just went over, studied, examined, broke these 2 chapters, actually 3, 7, 8, and 9 of Isaiah with my son, and we studied it. And let me show you what we found. And you remember, I hope you remembered to bring your bib. Remember, I was telling you guys to that I hope you got your bib on. Well, this is going to be a feast. We're going to break it down, and yeah, I hope you got your bib on. And it came to be in the days of Ahaz, son of Jotham, son of Uzziah, sovereign of Yehuda, that Rezin, sovereign of Aram, and Pekah, son of Remulah, sovereign of Yasharal, went up to Jerusalem to fight against it, but could not prevail against it. Now, this is, if you don't know, we're having a Bible study right now. We're going to break this down a little bit, not all the way, but we're going to get our specs out, our spectacles, and we're going to look a little deeper into what we're reading here, what we're talking about. I mean, that's usually what we do, but for those of you who might not know that, that's what we're going to do. So anyone who loves the Word and loves the Most High, our Creator, Yahuwah, should be thrilled that that's what they're about to embark on here in this video with me, with us. And I encourage you to chime in, participate. That's what this is about. Let's look at this together. And I'm just going to show you what I saw. If you participate with me, I'm sure we're going to see more of it together. I'll see more than what I've already saw with you. And that's what it's about. So, it came to be in the days of Ahaz, and he was the son of Jotham, in case you didn't know. And let's look at the translation of that, just so we know who we're talking about here. Ahaz, son of Jotham, whoever that is. That's Ahaz's dad. Which was the son of Uzziah. So Ahaz, Uzziah's grandson. And Uzziah was the sovereign of Yehuda. In those days, Rezin, the sovereign of Aram, and Pekah, the son of Remulah, who was the sovereign of Yasharal, went up to Jerusalem to fight against it, but could not prevail against it. Now, Jerusalem, for those of you who don't know, that this is just, Jerusalem is the more correct way to spell and say Jerusalem. There was no J, in case you didn't know. And it was reported to the house of David, saying, Aram has set up camp in Ephraim, and his heart and the heart of his people were moved as the trees of the forest are moved with the wind. So they were in a frenzy. They were rushing. And Yahuwah said to YESHAYAH, Isaiah, the one who's writing this, Isaiah, Matter of fact, let me try to get my brush out here with us. There we go. So, Yahuwah said to Isaiah, go out now to meet Ahaz, you and Sher-Hashab, your son. He told Isaiah and his son to take his son and go out and meet Ahaz at the end of the channel of the upper pool on the highway of the launderer's field, and say to him, take heed and be calm, do not fear or be faint-hearted for these 2 stubs of smoking firebrands, for the fierce displeasure of Retzim and Aram and the son of Remulah. So he told Ahaz, don't sweat them, even though they've came against Jerusalem. Because Aram, Ephraim, and the son of Remulah have plotted evil against you, saying, let us go up against Jehudah and tear it apart and break it open for ourselves, and set a sovereign over them, the son of Tabil. Thus said the Master Yahuwah, it is not going to stand, nor shall it take place. Why? For the head of Aram is Damascus, and the head of Damascus is Retzin. And within 65 years, Ephraim is to be broken as a people. And the head, so they're on their way out. And the head of Ephraim is Samaria. And the head of Samaria, that word Shamaron, it's the translation of Samaria is the translation there, you see. Samaria. Samaria is the son of Remulah. If you do not believe, you are not steadfast. So what that tells me, when because at the end he said, if you do not believe, you are not steadfast, that tells me that what he was saying about Aram is the head of Damascus and the head of Damascus is Retzin, that lets me know for sure that people wouldn't believe it. He was telling him that he wasn't going to be steadfast if he didn't believe it, because he knew he probably wouldn't believe it, or he might not believe it, and that people wouldn't believe it. So let's back this up. Verse 8. He said, the reason it ain't going to take place, what they got planned to do to you, Ahaz, is because the head of Aram is Damascus, and the head of Damascus is Retzin. So, obviously, because the Most High is no idiot, and he knows what he's talking about, obviously, he said that because the people didn't know that. They thought it was some other way, that the people in charge were someone else, who they were claiming to be, but they weren't who they were claiming to be. And he let him know, if you don't believe, you are not steadfast. You must believe. And Yahuwah spoke again to Ahaz, saying, ask a sign for yourself from Yahuwah, your mighty Most High. Make deep the request, or make it high. But Ahaz said, I do not ask, nor try Yahuwah. And he said, hear now, O house of David, is it not enough that you weary men, that you weary my Most High also? Therefore Yahuwah himself gives you a sign. Ahaz didn't want to ask, but the Most High gives you a sign. And this is the sign. Look, the Alma conceives and gives birth to a son, and shall call his name Emmanuel. Alma, from a root implying the vigor of puberty, is a Hebrew word meaning a young woman ripe for marriage. For marriage. I like that explanation there. I mean, most people know that it means virgin or maiden, right? But I like And that's, once you read this, you're going to understand that he wasn't exaggerating. That's not an exaggeration. That when he said Alma, he was meaning like a woman who, she's a virgin. She hasn't been married with a man, but she's ripe for marriage. She's ripe. So this woman he's talking about, conceives and gives birth to a son and shall call his name Emmanuel. Most of us know that Emmanuel means the Most High with us. The world says the God with us. They say that the word Emmanuel means God is with us or with you. Like, so we know that the Most High is here with that person. He eats curds and honey when he knows to refuse evil and choose the good. So what's he saying there in verse 15? He says, he eats curds and honey when he knows to refuse evil and choose the good. I know a lot of people probably, I used to, would have thought I would have never made the land flowing with milk and honey connection. And I know some people probably don't. But he's talking about the land flowing with milk and honey. So what's he saying? He eats the land flowing with milk and honey when he knows to refuse evil and choose the good. So, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, he's saying that no one refuses evil and chooses the good unless he's eating curds and honey. Now, we can totally rule out that he's being literal and talking about honey and cheese curds, right? Yeah, the Most High isn't saying that until you eat honey and cheese curds, you're not choosing good and refusing evil. No. So that should be clear as a bell to anyone hearing this. And let me just remind you that, in case you not, and I'm sure you know, but the Most High don't play. He ain't playing. He's all necessary. And this is serious business. So you should understand clearly what he's getting at with verse 15. For before the child knows to refuse evil and choose the good, the land that you dread is to be forsaken by both her sovereigns. So before he knows the land flowing with milk and honey, the land that either Ahaz or Isaiah dreads is to be forsaken by both her sovereigns. Yahuwah brings on you and your people and your father's house days that have not come since the day that Ephraim turned away from Yehudah, the sovereign of Ashur. And it shall be in that day that Yahuwah whistles for the fly that is in the farthest part of the rivers of Egypt, Mitzrayim. I'm going to show you. Mitzrayim is the original, or the name for Egypt. You see, Egypt. See, he will whistle for the flies from the Nile Delta in Egypt. Let's look at some other translations. Whistle for the fly that is in the farthest part of the rivers. Is in the mouth of the rivers, plural. All these translations are saying the rivers. But that one right there, the NIV, says from the Nile. So you can clearly see, and I see this a lot with the NIV, it's a clear error, and it seems to be deliberate, right? Because he didn't say from the Nile. It says, from the farthest parts of the rivers of Egypt, of Mitzrayim. And I know that Egypt wasn't the name originally for Egypt, and you can go to any any history book and find that out. It was Mitzrayim, and I know that its name was Emet, I think. Or no, not Emet, that's truth. Kemet or something like that. Kemet, Kemet. That's the true name for Egypt. Either that or Mitzrayim. It's not Egypt. It wasn't named Egypt until after Napoleon invaded that land over there, where what we now know to be Egypt. When Napoleon invaded that, it wasn't named Egypt. It was something else. That land was. But the Egypt we're talking about, the original name was Mitzrayim or Kemet. So he says, and shall be in that day that Yahuwah whistles for the fly that is in the furthest part of the rivers of Egypt, Mitzrayim, and for the bee that is in the land of Ashur. Is he literally whistling for a bee and a fly? We'll see. And they shall come, and all of them shall rest in the steep ravines, and in the clefts of the rocks, and on all weeds, and in all pastures. Are they literally going to rest in those things, in the clefts of the rocks? In that day Yahuwah shall shave with a razor, hired beyond the river, with the sovereign of Ashur, the head and the hair of the legs, and also remove the beard. So the razor that he's hiring beyond the river is the sovereign of Ashur, and he's going to use him to shave the head and the hair of the legs and also remove the beard. What's that mean? What's he telling us? Correct me if I'm wrong. He's telling us that he's going to expose someone and leave them naked as you can be, and just, just imagine if someone done that to you, shaved every hair off of you. I mean, people would be looking at you. You'd be worried about what people are thinking. You're out there. You're exposed. You're naked, and it's bound to be shameful, right? Sure. And it shall be in that day that a man keeps alive a young cow and 2 sheep. You think he's talking about every man or one man? We'll see. And it shall be that he shall eat curds because of the plenty milk he gets. For everyone left in the land shall eat curds. So what do you think he's saying here? And before I go on any further, I want to say it again. These are riddles, codes, parables, whatever you want to call them, metaphors. And the reason the Most High uses these riddles, this is how he judges us. He says that he judges with the word, okay? And I've told this story before. I used to, I haven't dated in a while, but the last few years of the, quote unquote, dating scene for me, or whatever you want to call it, I left breadcrumbs for people, and not just not just in the dating, in my dating life, but in just all interaction with people, any relationships or any people who tried to get close to me or I was close to, whatever. I often tested their whether they were being real or not by leaving breadcrumb, and just I would know, I could know who's really who they say they are. You know what I mean? And you see this in your own life. There's people who blow smoke up your rear end, right? And you've had people that lied to you and told you that they love you, or that they were your friend, or they had your back, or they were honest, or whatever. And then later they proved to you that they were lying when they told you those things. And it was usually to get something from you, or to, to get an outcome that they want, a desired outcome. So if the Most High if he didn't use riddles, and he wrote everything straight to the point, no riddles, no figures of speech, how would he ever know who truly loves him or not? Because there's a lot of people who are claiming to love him, right? And that's not what we're here to do. We're not here to beat up anyone or talk about anyone else's relationship with the Most High. We're here to talk about our relationship with the Most High. And we don't want to be talking just the talk, right? We want to walk the walk. And look, if we love someone, if you love someone truly, and you respect and revere them all the way, and there's no exceptions, you are going to want to know if there's something that you're doing, if you find out there's something that you do or that you said that's disrespectful to them or hurt them or whatever, you want to know. You want to know if there's something you're doing that you're unaware of that would injure or harm them in any way, so you can stop, because you love and respect them, right? So those people who, if we claim to love the Most High, but our deeds say otherwise, it doesn't matter if even if we believe wholeheartedly in our mind that we do love him and that we would never harm him, even if that's what we believe, but there's something we do, and even if we're unaware that it's harming that person, if we're doing it, we're harming him, right? So if we truly love, respect that person, and revere him, if we find out that we're doing something that's negative to that person, we correct course. We correct course, right? So this is how he judges people. He wrote a good majority of the world in riddles and codes and parables. And that's why you often hear, lest they hear with their ears and see with their eyes. That's why he says that, because only those who truly love the Most High and love his word and desire to understand it are going to understand it. That's common sense. It's like, yeah, you carry that Bible everywhere you go and you say you love me, but if you don't understand what such and such means, it lets me know that you were just wanting me to think that you love me, right? This is how he judges with the word. So these are riddles and codes. Not all of it, but a lot of it. And it's amazing, and it's so like Abba, because that's how Abba works. He's master class. Some of these riddles and parables are just so dynamic and powerful and beautiful, and they mean so much. He does way more with these riddles than what someone could do just spitting it out. So, I mean, if you want that gold, if you want what's good, I mean, you live not by bread alone, but by the words that come out of the Most High's mouth. And you love it, and it's exciting. I mean, I can't get enough of it. It's the greatest thing ever. So we'll see if he was being literal in verse 21 about keeping alive a young cow and 2 sheep. And it shall be that he shall eat curds because of the plenty milk he gets, for everyone left in the land shall eat curds. And remember, He said he don't know to refuse the evil and choose the good until he eats the honey and the curds. So everyone left in the land is going to be choosing the good and refusing the evil. That's what he's telling us. And it's going to be because of all the milk, the plenty milk he gets. So the truth from the land flowing with milk and honey. And it shall be in that day, every place where there were 1,000 vines worth 8,000 shekels of silver, let it be for thorn bushes and weeds. With arrows and bows one shall go there, because all the land shall be thorn bushes and weeds. And to all the hills which were tilled with the hoe, you do not go for fear of thorn bushes and weeds, but it shall be for sending oxen to, and a place for sheep to roam. Now, that could be literal. He could be saying that anywhere other than the land flowing with milk and honey, right, is somewhere he don't want. It's somewhere that he don't want us to go to. But it could be. It's probably both. That's another thing too. We never want to box the Most High in and think that he's only being literal or he's only speaking in riddle, because a lot of times he covers everything, and it's necessary, and we need it. We need it to be that way, and we need to understand it. So if we think about a place where there are 1,000 vines, the vineyards, that's where the people, like, it makes me think of congregations, of gatherings, or just a population of believers. And it confirms that even more by him mentioning the 1,000 shekels of silver. It lets me know that, yeah, it could be literal, probably is, but it's also places where falsehood is being preached and taught and planted. And we don't want to go there because of thorn bushes and weeds, because you don't want, that's a jam, that's a snare, a trap. But he says it shall be for sending oxen to, and oxen is what you use to pull the blade and plow. So a vehicle to do what you got to do what's right. And we're the sheep. So on that one there, I'm leaning a little bit more of us needing to understand the literal aspect of that last part, because why would sheep, well, I guess let's go back to that. Why would sheep be roaming and ox somewhere, if this is a metaphor, and somewhere he don't want us to go? But he right here it says, but it shall be for sending oxen to, and a place for sheep to roam. So there's a lot of depth to that. We won't get into that right now, but that could be referring to feasting on the flesh of the sovereigns, of us, like understanding, like I was just talking, like we don't want to blow smoke up the Most High's rear end. But when we see someone do that, over the years, and we see what it gets them, we feast on seeing that, because now we want to make sure we don't do that. So that's how we feast. And that could be what he was getting at there. And Yahuwah said to me, take a large tablet and write on it with a man's pen concerning Maher-shalal Hash-Baz. And let me take reliable witnesses to record Uriah the priest and Zechariah the son of Yebekiah. I don't think that last name is super important right now, but we'll just look at it just in case. Jabirakiah right there. So he told him to take Uriah the priest and Zechariah that guy's son, to record with a pen matters concerning Maher-shalal Hashbaz. And I went to the prophetess. For those who don't know, prophetess is a female who speaks the word of the Most High. And she conceived and bore a son. And Yahuwah said to me, call his name Maher-shalal Hashbaz. For before the child knows to cry, my father and my mother, the riches of Damascus and the spoil of Samaria is taken away before the sovereign of Ashur. And Yahuwah spoke to me again, saying, inasmuch as these people refused the waters of Shiloh that flow softly, and rejoice in Retzin and in Remulah's son, now therefore see, Yahuwah brings up over them the waters of the river strong and mighty. So what he was saying, he's saying, as much as the people refuse this truth, the waters being the truth, that flowed softly up to their ear and just not even tickled it. It wasn't even uncomfortable. It was nice and soft and gentle and just nice and easy. As much as the people refuse that. So you should agree that we're seeing, one thing we're seeing about this situation is that a lot of people are refusing the truth, right? Because he said in the last chapter, he said, Damascus is the head of this one and that one. If you do not believe, you are not steadfast. He's letting us know that he's been gently giving truth to the people that flows softly. And they rejoice in Retzin and Remulah's son. As much as they refused it, they're going to, he's going to hammer them now with a river strong and mighty, the sovereign of Ashur in all his esteem. That's that river. It's going to come hard. And he shall come up over all his channels and go over all his banks. He's going to flood. It's going to be like a torrential downpour and flood the land. Not literally. And he shall pass through Yehuda. He shall overflow and pass over, reaching up to the neck. And the stretching out of his wings shall fill the breadth of your land, O Emmanuel. Be shattered, O you peoples, and be broken in pieces. Give ear, all you from the far places of the earth. Gird yourselves, but be broken in pieces. Gird yourselves, but be broken in pieces. So, there ain't nothing you're going to be able to do about it. Yeah, gird yourself, but it's not going to matter. Take counsel, and it comes to nothing. Speak a word, and it does not stand. For the mighty one is with us. For Yahuwah spoke this to me with a strong hand and instructed me that I should not walk in the way of this people, saying, do not say a conspiracy concerning all that this people call a conspiracy, nor be afraid of their threats, nor be troubled. For Yahuwah of hosts, him you shall set apart. Let him be your fear, and let him be your dread. And he shall be for a set apart place, if you fear and dread him. But a stone of stumbling and a rock that makes for falling to both the houses of Yasharal, as a trap and a snare to the inhabitants of Jerusalem. And many among them shall stumble and fall and be broken and snared and taken. Bind up the witness, seal the Torah among my taught ones. So what's that tell you right there? What does verse 16 tell you? It tells me that in order to avoid a stumbling block and a rock that falls, that trap and that snare, for one, I need to fear the Most High and not what people are going to say when I speak or whatever I'm doing, and not worry about what they think or do or say, but only Abba Yahuwah. And that where I find what he says is in the witnesses, which is the prophets, David, the Psalms, Proverbs, and the Torah, what people call the Old Testament, basically. That's how I avoid falling and getting caught in a stumbling block in a trap or a snare. And I shall wait on Yahuwah, who hides his face from the house of Jacob, and I shall look for him. Look, I and the children whom Yahuwah has given me, for signs and wonders in Yasharal from Yahuwah of hosts, who dwells in Mount Sion. And when they say to you, seek those who are mediums. So, and let's back that up a second. A minute ago, I was saying one thing we can already take from this is that the people are being lied to about lands and sovereigns, and that they refuse the truth about things. So they carry on with the lies, and that whoever's speaking this truth shouldn't fear what people say, right? And that truth is in the witnesses and the Torah. And that they're going to say it's a conspiracy theory. And that we are not to say what they say and do what they do. Do not say a conspiracy. How we resolve these issues, like if you're hearing this and you hear what my message is, what the truth that the Most High has shown me that I'm trying to share, if you don't, you can say it's a conspiracy or a conspiracy theory. You can, okay? But the only way it will be valid is if you go and investigate and come with the evidence that it is a conspiracy. So he's telling Isaiah that this truth that you're going to hear, you might not believe it. The people are going to say it's a conspiracy. Don't listen to them. If you do not believe, you are not steadfast. And he told us, when they say to you, seek those who are mediums, like a mediator, like one that speaks or does something in between you and someone, like someone who another person wants them to speak to the Most High for them. And wizards, someone who's critically acclaimed and they have all the credit, or that they're credible in the public's eyes, that they know what they're talking about. So when they say to you, seek the mediums and the wizards who whisper and mutter, should not a people seek their mighty Most High? Should they seek the dead on behalf of the living? Now, I know most of my life, and I'm fairly sure that a lot of the people who've read this and read this, they probably think that he's talking about like psychics, seeking an answer or something from a dead person, like a ghost, like a Ouija board kind of crap. Is that what he's talking about? The wizards and the mediums aren't dead people. No, what he's talking about is the people who aren't seeking the Most High, who don't believe because they're not steadfast, who will say conspiracy and they're not in the Torah and the witnesses, they're dead. It's the land of the dry bones. If you want to find the Most High, you have to go to where he is, the Torah and the witnesses. To the Torah and to the witness. If they do not speak according to this word, it is because they have no daybreak. Plain and simple. And we just heard that until we choose the good and refuse the evil, until we eat curds and honey from the land of milk and honey, we're not choosing the good or refusing the evil. So what that tells me is what I need to know about the land flowing with milk and honey can be found in the Torah and the witnesses. And if we're not talking out the Torah and the witnesses, which is about the land flowing with milk and honey, we got no daybreak. And they shall pass through it hard pressed and hungry. Pass through what? The Torah and the witnesses. Pass through it hard pressed and hungry. And it shall be when they are hungry that they shall be wroth and curse their sovereign and their Most High, looking upward. Curse them looking upward. How do we curse the Most High when we're looking upward? Because when we do pass through the Torah and the witness, we're passing through it hard pressed and hungry. Now, there's a lot of people who do that who probably feel totally satiated, satisfied. But in reality, they're hungry, they're starving, right? Like someone is starving for the truth. They just don't know it, right? And they shall look to the earth and see distress and darkness, gloom of hard times, and be driven into thick darkness. So, what I'm saying, and like I said, chime in, please do. I'm taking from the Most High that because they don't speak the word from the Torah and the witness, it causes them to curse the Most High looking upward. And when they look to the earth, they see distress and darkness, gloom of hard times, and be driven into thick darkness. So we know now why he said, seal up the Torah and the witness amongst my taught ones. You have to learn. You got to be taught in order to choose the good, refuse the evil, eat the honey and the cheese curds, right? And no, I'm not talking about Culver's cheese curds, but they are pretty good. But there is no gloom upon her who is distressed, as when at first he humbled the land of Zebulun and the land of Naphtali, and afterward more heavily oppressed her by the way of the sea beyond the Jordan in Galilee of the nations. So this lets me know that her that there is no gloom upon is a piece of land. The people who were walking in darkness have seen a great light. Upon those who dwelt in the land of the shadow of death, a light has shone. So I always used to think, and I'm sure most of the world readers still think, that the land of the shadow of death is It's either a physical place called the Valley of the Shadow of Death, or it's just talking about like people who sin are walking around and unaware and just sinning, just living in darkness, right? But only them people have seen a great light. And remember, we're talking about the land, and we just seen that those who don't examine the Torah and the witnesses, when they look to the earth, they see darkness. When they look to the earth, we're talking about land and the earth. You shall increase the nation. You shall make its joy great. They shall rejoice before you as in the joy of harvest, as men rejoice when they divide the spoil. For you shall break the yoke of his burden and the staff of his shoulder, the rod of his oppressor, as in the day of Midian. For every boot of one trampling in tumult and colt rolled in blood shall be used for burning and fuel of fire. For a child is born unto us, a son is given unto us, and the rule is on his shoulder. And his name is called Wonder, Counselor, Strong Mighty One, Father of Continuity, what holds us together, Prince of Peace. Of the increase of his rule and peace there is no end. Upon the throne of Daud, and over his reign, to establish it and sustain it with right ruling and with righteousness from now on, even forever. The ardor of Yahuwah of hosts does this. The ardor. It's the same pretty much as adore. So it's more than just love. I could say the love for Yahuwah is what is going to bring all that goodness about. And that is true. But we need a better word to use for those who believe they love the Most High, but indeed they don't. And whether they understand and they realize that or not. The ardor, the true ardor. So that means the true dread, the fear, the true bowing to the Most High, loving him, more than just bowing. Just what's going to bring all that about is the absolute reverence and love and esteem for the Most High. That's what does it. Yahuwah sent a word against Jacob, and it has fallen on Yasharal, and the people shall know, all of them, Ephraim and the inhabitant of Samaria, who say in pride and greatness of heart, the bricks have fallen down, but we rebuild with hewn stones. The sycamores are cut down, but we replace them with cedars. So after all that, the people who say conspiracy, the people who pass through the Torah and witness hard-pressed and hungry, the people who say conspiracy, they're not going to believe it. The people who push back, who mock and scoff, they will know. And those are the people who say in pride and greatness of heart. They say, not literally, but their deeds, their actions have said, are saying, the bricks have fallen down. What bricks? But we rebuild with hewn stones. The sycamores are cut down, but we replace them with cedars. And remember, we've been talking about the land and the earth. So what this tells me is he's talking about whoever indeed, not literally, but their actions are saying, yeah, Messiah said that not a stone will be on top of another, but we're going to rebuild. We'll build the set-apart place. And Yahuwah set up the adversaries of Retzin against him and stirred up his enemies. the Arameans before, and the Philistines behind, and they devour Yasharal with an open mouth. With all this, his displeasure has not turned back, and his hand is still stretched out. With all this, with all them people on front and back, devouring Yasharal with an open mouth, even though they devour him, his hand still stretched out. And the people have not turned back to him who strikes them, nor have they sought Yahuwah of hosts. And Yahuwah cuts off head and tail from Yasharal, palm branch and reed in one day. Elder and highly respected, he is the head. The prophet who teaches falsehood, he is the tail. What's that tail mean? Anyone speaking anything about the Most High is getting cut off. He says Yahuwah cuts off head and tail. The head is an elder, highly respected. We're talking about the word, the Torah and the witness, and we're talking about the land flowing with milk and honey. So someone who the world sees as elder and highly respected, and all the way to the tail, the one just teaching straight up falsehood and knowing it. And now the elder and highly respected, they don't know that they're teaching that whatever they're doing is going to get them cut off, because they're highly, they don't. They're the head. They're all getting cut off. For the leaders of this people led them astray, and those who are guided by them are swallowed up. Therefore Yahuwah does not rejoice over the young men, over their young men, and has no compassion on their fatherless and widows, for everyone is defiled and evil, and every mouth speaks foolishness. With all this, his displeasure has not turned back, and his hand is still stretched out. Even though all that's happening, his hand is still stretched out. For wrongness burns as the fire. Wrongness. Just getting it wrong. That's all that means. It doesn't mean someone who, he doesn't specifically mean people who just don't care about doing what's right. No, he's talking about anyone doing what's wrong. Whether they know it or not, it's wrongness. And it burns as fire. We don't get the excuse that we didn't know. We didn't know that was wrong. That's not going to fly. If we're doing something wrong, the answer on how to solve that was there. If we don't find it, that's how the word judges you. It consumes thorn bushes and weeds, and sets the bushes of the forest ablaze, and they roll up like rising smoke. The forest. We know the house of the forest. We've read how it is used to cover the truth of the land. Thorn bushes and weeds and forest are words used by the Most High to describe the hiding of truth. The land shall be burned up by the wrath of Yahuwah of hosts, and the people be as fuel for the fire. A man shall not spare his brother. So, all the devouring going on, anyone devouring won't even spare his brother. The same foolishness and falsehoods being taught and planted and preached everywhere, and no one's getting spared because they don't know. And cut down on the right hand, but shall be hungry. And he devours on the left hand, but shall not be satisfied. Each one devouring the flesh of his own arm. His own arm. We know our right arm represents what we do, our work. Most High set Yerushalayim as the seal on our right arm. So we should be working towards what we're talking about here. So these people that are devouring their own brother, they're devouring the flesh of their own arm. What they could be using, working towards, they're devouring any good possibility. Manasseh, Ephraim, and Ephraim, Manasseh, together they are against Yehudah. With all this, his displeasure has not turned back, and his hand is still stretched out. Woe to them making unrighteous inscriptions. Unrighteous inscriptions. And writers who have prescribed toil. So if someone deliberately wrote the Nile, that comparison we just looked at, if they deliberately did that so everyone would only think they were talking about that Nile River in Egypt, then that's an unrighteous inscription. And whoever's prescribing toil in order to keep the needy back from right ruling. And what's right ruling? Right ruling is whatever subject, whatever situation we're in. If me and you are driving somewhere and we have to go west to our destination, right ruling is that we go west. We don't go east. If eating the curds and the honey is refusing the evil and choosing the good, well, we eat curds and honey. That's right ruling. So he's letting us know that those people, they made unrighteous inscriptions which prescribed toil in order to keep the needy back from right ruling and to take what is right from the poor of my people, the truth. And we're still talking about the land flowing with milk and honey and the truth about all that's in the Torah and the witnesses. Take what is right from the poor of my people, that widows become their prey and orphans their plunder. What shall you do in the day of visitation and in the ruin which comes from afar? To whom would you run for help, and where would you leave your wealth? We've seen, if you don't run to the Torah and the witnesses, there's no daybreak in you. It's not right ruling, it's wrongness. Without me they shall bow down among the prisoners, and fall among the killed. With all this, his displeasure has not turned back, and his hand is still stretched out, still trying to bring you home. Woe to Ashur, the rod of my displeasure, and the staff in whose hand is my displeasure. Against the defiled nation I send him, and against the people of my wrath I command him to seize the spoil, and to take the prey, and to tread them down like the mud of the streets. So he's the one that's inscribing unrighteous. He did that, but the truth is in the Torah, sealed up in the Torah and the witness. We have to be taught ones though, right? So the sovereign of Ashur is trampling down. But he does not intend so, nor does his heart think so. For it is in his heart to destroy and cut off not a few nations. He's not thinking about all that. All he's thinking about is destruction. For he says, are not my princes sovereigns? Is not Calno like Carchemish? Is not Hamath like Arpad? Is not Samaria like Damascus? Let's look at the comparison. Pretty much all the same names. Carmash. As my hand has found the reins of the idols, and this is the sovereign of Ashur saying this, whose carved images excelled those of Jerusalem and Samaria. As I have done to Samaria and her idols, do I not do also to Jerusalem and her idols? And it shall be when Yahuwah has performed all his work on Mount Zion and on Jerusalem, that I shall punish the fruit of the greatness of the heart of the sovereign of Ashur and the boasting of his haughty looks. As shall be when Yahuwah performed all his work on Mount Sion, that he's going to punish the sovereign of Ashur. For he has said, by the power of my hand I have done it, and by my wisdom, for I have been clever, and I removed the boundaries of the people, and have robbed their treasuries. And I put down the inhabitants like a strong one. The inhabitants of what? Of the land. Do you see now? The unrighteous inscriptions, the prescribed toil, the lies, where all the disbelief come from. They come from the sovereign of Ashur, who has said that he has created by his power, his hand, his wisdom, because he's clever, because he removed the boundaries of the people and robbed their treasuries and put down the inhabitants like a strong one. You see? And we're still talking about the land flowing with milk and honey. And my hand finds the riches of the people like a nest, and I have gathered all the earth like forsaken eggs are gathered, and there was no one who moved his wing nor opened his mouth with even a peep. Would the axe boast itself over him who chops with it, or the saw exalt itself over him who saws with it? As a rod waving those who lift it up, as a staff lifting up that which is not wood. So the sovereign of Ashur is boasting that he did all this. And the Most High lets you know in verse 15 that don't forget that he used the sovereign of Ashur to do all that. The sovereign of Assyria. Therefore the Master Yahuwah of hosts sends leanness among his fat ones, and under his esteem he kindles a burning like the burning of a fire. And the light of Yasharal shall be for a fire, and his set apart one for a flame, and it shall burn and devour his weeds and his thorn bushes in one day. In one day. So his weeds, his thorn bushes, the forest, all that was the where'd it go? The sovereign of Ashur removing the boundaries of the people and robbing the treasuries. And no one said anything about it or did anything about it. But the Most High did it ultimately. And in one day, the Most High is going to destroy all of that prescribed toil and inscriptions of unrighteousness concerning the land, the curds and the honey, the boundaries. And remember, in the beginning, he said he's going to shave with a razor the beard, the legs, the hair, expose. So we clearly see by what we've read so far that the sovereign of Ashur, that the Most High used the sovereign of Ashur to change the boundaries, which caused the people who ain't reading the Torah and witness to look to the earth and see darkness. This is all about the land and the truth, which is our treasuries. We're the inhabitants. And he said he would do it in one day. And consume the esteem of his forest and of his fertile field, both life and flesh, and they shall be as when a sick man wastes away. And remember, he just said, the esteem of his forest, and the field would be fertile. So there's a reason the world would say conspiracy, conspiracy, and that he needed to warn Isaiah to not fear him, because he might fear him, because there'll be such a pushback, because they believe the truth. They believe lies is the truth. About what? About the land, about the Alma, about the milk and honey, about the boundaries, which are all found in the Torah and the witnesses, the truth of it. And he's going to destroy it in one day, and it'll waste away as a sick man. And the remaining trees of his forest shall be so few in number that a child records them. There'll be nothing standing in the way of the truth. And in that day it shall be that the remnant of Yasharal and those who have escaped of the house of Jacob never again lean upon him who struck them, but shall lean upon Yahuwah, the set apart one of Yasharal, in truth, in truth. So the Torah and the witnesses is where we find the truth. And any idea or doctrine or whatever leading that's done by anything other than that, it's going to be destroyed, and it is destroying. It is the trap, the snare, the stumbling block. But to those who go diligently examining, investigating the Torah and the witnesses, they'll find that truth, and it's not going to be a stumbling block to them, but a set-apart place. A remnant shall return, the remnant of Jacob, to the mighty Most High. For though your people, O Yasharal, be as the sand of the sea, yet a remnant of them shall return, a decisive end, overflowing with righteousness. So I think you should be able to understand and see, and like I said, chime in. Let's put our Berean hats and boots on. We should be able to agree that the land, we've been lied to about where the land is. And that in the end, the decisive end will be those who are diligently searching out the Most High in the Torah and witnesses will see a great light, and we will return. We'll find out about the curds and honey from the Torah and the witnesses, the truth, and we will return, which will be a decisive end for the Master Yahuwah, and it's going to be overflowing with righteousness, right ruling. For the Master Yahuwah of hosts is making a complete end as decided in the midst of all the earth. Therefore, thus said the Master Yahuwah of hosts, my people who dwell in Sion, be not afraid of Ashur, who struck you with a rod and lifts up his staff against you in the way of Mitzrayim. For yet a little while, and the displeasure shall be completed, and my displeasure be to their destruction. And Yahuwah of hosts stirs up a lash for him as the smiting of Midian at the rock of Oreb, and his rod was on the sea, so shall he lift up in the way of Mitzrayim. And in that day it shall be that his burden is removed from your shoulder. And remember, he said that he's going to place Yerushalayim, the reign on Emmanuel's shoulder, right? So the shoulder represents, you should know what you're, the burden, what you're carrying around with you. It's a burden to not know It's a burden when you look to the earth and see darkness and distress. But when that light's shining on you, it's no longer a burden. It's being removed, and the yoke from your neck, and the yoke shall be destroyed because of the anointing oil. And that yoke was removing of the boundaries, unrighteous inscriptions, denial. And the anointing oil, the anointing is done to the king in the land. He has come up upon Aath. He has passed Migron. At Michmash he stored his supplies. They have gone through the pass. They have taken up lodging at Gabah. Ramah is afraid. Gabah of Shaul has fled. Lift up your voice, O daughter of Galim. Listen, Laishah, O poor of Anathoth. Madmenah has fled. The inhabitants of Gabim sought refuge. Yet he remains at Nob that day. He shakes his fist at the mountain of the daughter of Zion, the hill of Jerusalem. Look, the master Yahuwah of hosts is lopping off a branch with an awesome crash, and the tall ones are cut down, and the lofty ones are laid low. And he shall cut down the thickets of the forest with iron, and Lebanon shall fall as a mighty one. In that movie, Little Shop of Horrors, the Audrey 2 represents the image of the beast. The flower does. She's Babylon. She's a man-eating flower. Throughout the word, the Most High uses the word blossom and bud and flower to describe that light. It said that a great light has shined upon those living in the shadow of death. When those see that great light, they see the land flowing with milk and honey, the curds and the honey. And that is that blossom. That's when Jerusalem is blossoming and budding. That's why the Messiah said, when you see the fig tree, he used the fig tree parable, when you see the leaves tender and it puts forth its bud, know that the time is nigh, it's near. So he says he remains, and the sovereign of Ashur will shake his fist at Jerusalem because of this. And at the same time that's happening, the lofty ones, the tall ones, are cut down. And he shall cut down the thickets of the forest with iron, and Lebanon shall fall as a mighty one. That movie explains to you what happened in September of 2023 and October, when all these things started to happen, when the truth of the image of the beast started to come out, and the truth of where the real land is started to come out. And I can show you lots, dozens of movies and stories that know all about that they've been waiting for this time to get here to do it. And we know, we can't go saying that this is just the enemy. We read it all the time. We just read it, that the enemy is the tool in the Most High's hands. He's doing it. So that happened on the Most High's timing, appointed time. It's for a reason. We just read about it, and you can keep reading about it, and you'll see that eclipse happened. When it happened right at the time. He said that he walked by and was looking for that flower. He was looking at the flowers, and that flower wasn't there. The eclipse happened. You seen the little green lightning bolt, and he turned around and noticed the flower there. It appeared. And he said, I know it wasn't there before. Because at that time, and like I said, this is spoken about in lots of movies and stories. When that eclipse happened, at that time, the truth of the image of the beast, the reality of the world, of the earth, the way it is, the powers of the heavens were shaken. And now people are waking up to who that place is over there, who they are, and what they're about, and that they've been lied to. A great light is shining on them. And what the decisive end will be, overflowing with righteousness, is in returning. Now the question is, what are you going to do about it? Are you going to say conspiracy regarding what these people will say is a conspiracy? Are you going to mock and scoff? Or are you going to park your butt down in front of the Torah and the witness and make sure, do all you can do to not pass through it hard pressed and hungry, and understand that without eating honey and curds, we're choosing evil and we're refusing the good. Until we eat curds and honey, that's what we're doing. But once we do eat curds and honey, we'll be choosing what's good and refusing the evil. That's why the decisive end, flowing with righteousness, is returning. And what the world believes to be true is lies and falsehood. And that the only way we can avoid that is to go to the source of truth and read it diligently, Berean style, with humility and no pride. We don't claim to know what's good and what's evil. We find out from Abba, Yahuwah, the Most High, our wonderful Creator, our righteousness. We don't stand in pride. If we want to live, we die to ourselves, to the Messiah, to the Word. We bow to the Word, the Torah, the witnesses, to the truth on our face. We give Abba Yahuwah all the praise, all the honor, all the glory, and all the esteem. All the evidence that you need to prove to you that that happened last September, and that's what's happening. All the proof you need is in any direction you want to look right now. anywhere in this word and anywhere out here. Put the word up to the current events and you'll find out that that's what's happening. That should give you all the proof you need to know that the time is short. And you got some traveling to do.